Hello, hello, my green skins. And today we're doing a review. I know we've been doing what ifs, but we're still a review channel. We just the what ifs are a fun little side thing. As it sounds like Dark just fell out of his chair.
No, I'm just adjusting my chair.
Yeah, I swear to God, it sounded like that's you falling out of your chair. Um, so what are we doing today, Dark?
The movie we're doing today is Action Jackson. And I'm talking Action Jackson 1988, starring King of Cool Carl Weathers. I say this because for some reason, every time I search Action Jackson on Google, I get the 2014 Bollywood movie. And that's not the one we're talking about. We're talking the real Action Jackson.
He gets that. He gets that. I get a old school cartoon, an old school toy from the 60s. So it's interesting. So let's break down Jackson. What do you think about Action Jackson?
One word: cool. This movie oozes coolness. The plot might be paper thin, which we'll get into in a moment, but the performance of who I consider to be the king of cool, Carl Weathers, and also edited by Craig T. Nelson, whom people will either know as Coach or the current boyfriend of Mima and young Sheldon. Those two together just hold the movie so well for me that, again, the story is paper thin, but their performances elevated it um, to something that's just amazing.
Hmm. I see it as an uncanny valley with unnatural things and having Sharon Stone titties in it. Uh,
And
that's
that's
kind of how I feel. And so, what what's the story there, Dark?
So the story is about a former police lieutenant, now sergeant, named Jericho Action Jackson, who goes to investigate a series of murders of auto worker union officials connected with his arch enemy, a businessman named Peter Delaplane, whom was the one who ultimately caused Jackson to be demoted. And when he starts digging into deep, mainly by questioning Delaplane's wife, she is then killed and by Delaplane, and Jackson is framed as her killer. Now he is trying to solve the case while running away from both Delaplane's hired killers and the police with the help of Delaplane's mistress, played by Vanity. Yeah, it's a paper thin plot with a lot of what Orc would call uncanny valley stuff, but it doesn't bother me.
It really is uncanny valley because it makes no goddamn sense. Okay, so he runs a car factory, but he wants to destroy the local union 101 or something, one something. He wants to put his own fake person in the union. Well, why do that? His mentality is by doing this, he gains control of unions as a whole. And I'm like, well, there's a thousand other ways to control a fucking union than murdering people. The mob was the mob figured out ways to bribe people and do other things, and he's also like murdering mobster. Like a lot of the times, you think he's killing mobsters, not union guys. It isn't until after you realize, oh, they are union guys, which is kind of like weird. It has its own valley of stuff. There are a couple interesting stunts, and we'll get to that. What'd you think of the music, Dark?
Um, it has its own soundtrack of scores, like licensed music, particularly the
Mhm.
intro. It's got this typical 80s soundtrack going on here, so to me, that's a
And it
plus.
also has Vanilla or Valia. I can't remember how you say her name.
Vanity.
Uh Vanity. I saw it once. It's slowly drifting from my brain. I just watched it recently, and it has its moments of the music was okay. It wasn't great, but it was certainly odd. Again, it's weird, uncanny valley. And what did you think of the acting in this?
as I said earlier, I think this movie is held by the strong performances of Carl Weathers and Craig T. Nelson because they're both just really good actors. Everyone else, I think everyone else did fine. I'm not taking anything away from them. Vanity is not an act, well, wasn't Rip. She wasn't an actress. She was mainly a singer, but I think she did fine. Sharon Stone is Sharon Stone. But yeah, those two guys really held this movie together, and you can't ask from anything better. But I think as another thing about this movie is it kind of proves Carl Weathers is capable or was capable of becoming an action hero on the same par as Stallone and Schwarzenegger. And unfortunately, he was criminally underused in the 80s. And I think we should have had more Carl Weathers movies. This proves that he can be a great action hero. And it was a missed opportunity.
I agree. I kind of agree. This guy, Carl Weathers, is surprisingly fun in this movie. And the problem is he has moments. The sad thing is the things he's being forced to say because it's a shitty script. It's a shitty script. Like this is shitty walk here and shitty shrimp and shitty.
Oh
It's
no.
just shitty.
Everyone loves that line. How do you like your ribs?
How do you like your ribs?
I just like it had. That's the problem. How do you like your ribs as he shoots a guy with a bazooka? I didn't even like that. Like this was so. The funny thing is this was so uncanny valley. Like and the other actor, which is actually Coach. I remember more as Coach. Coach was good in this, but the problem was he was given such a shitty line and such shitty things. Like one of my favorite moments is he walks in, he goes walks in, and they have the guy from Darkman. He plays a typical hey, what are you mobster in a lot of movies. He's in it, and he's like, okay, here's your revolver, sir. I cleaned it for you. Oh, thanks. Walks in, murders Sharon Stone. Just bang, she's dead. And then he like just walks over, throws the gun to the guy. Yeah, the gun works great. I'm like, okay, now what? Like it just seems so weird how it's like there's just a lot of moments in this movie where I'm just scratching my head going, what the fuck? And there's a
Well, what
lot of
about
titty. There's a
well
Go
before
ahead.
that that scene where Coach is fighting against James Liu and he's kicking his
Yeah,
ass like an
I know,
experienced martial
I
artist.
know.
It was so funny. It's so funny. It's so bad. It's
It's
good.
so uncanny valley. Like this guy, the guy who did this is the creator of Stone Cold. He's also the director who did that. And they have some interesting other things that happen. So let's talk about the fight scenes and the stunts. What do you think of those?
Oh, dude, this stunt work was just amazing. The fight scenes were good, minus the sparring scene, which I can kind of forgive because Craig T. Nielsen, even back at that point, he was an old man. But for the most part, practical effects, the chase scenes were fun, and that taxi scene, it really showcased Carl Weathers' athleticism and how he really could have been an action hero at the time.
Anyway, here's the funny thing about that. Again, this reminds me of Stone Cold. Again, this is the director who did it. Uh, this reminds me of that. And you get the vibe that this was supposed to be something more. Like I looked into it, I thought it was a book series of a black police officer cop doing badass shit, big towering man. No, it's not. It gives you the vibe that this is actually something else, and it's not. And that was the sad thing is that if we were to like maybe get a couple like something before this. I've even heard stories of like an Action Jackson cartoon, but I'm not sure. Like Google has one hell of a time trying to figure this fucker out. And that's the thing about the stunts in this. The stunts are okay, like they're fake on a lot of levels, But like I said, when he's driving through a car, like he uses the tagline that they have at the beginning of the movie, and he's driving through with that car, hot, hotter, hottest, as he's like bowling through this guy's house with a car. That is fucking cool watching someone drive a. It looked like a DeLorean, but I wasn't 100% sure if it was a DeLorean or a wannabe Ferrari. And it was like it had a lot of uncanny stuff. So what do you want to rate this bad boy?
Oh, I'm giving this a generous 8.
Oh,
And I say this because before you give your result, let me explain. Like I said, it's a paper thin story, but it's put together by a barrage of really cool actors like Carl Weathers, and I think that I guess you could say this is his only lead role in this action movie, 80s action movie vibe, and you just want more of it, but this is all we've got. And it's like,
yeah.
ugh, this is why it gets the high rating, because it's like it's all we've got.
I got a 5. I'm giving this a 5 because it's actually a 4.9. It's just below average. Just because Carl Weathers actually, that's the sad thing. This guy sounds like he actually, the way he acts, the way he kind of struts about, like there's just weird. The thing is so uncanny valley. Like the idea that he keeps asking for a guy when he opens up a thing and they find his balls in a fucking jar. It's like this is so uncanny valley shit in this movie. I like it, but I hate it because of its uncanny valley. So it's getting a 5 from me. This, that's all I can really say. Like this was mediocre on my end, and I was just like I wasn't excited like I am for an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or a Chuck Norris movie or the movie we're doing next, which is going to be Bloodsport. And yeah, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more What If. Stay tuned for more pop culture, and stay tuned for more movie reviews on Orc War Chief Reviews. Have a good one.